Intrigue and what if. Imagine a world where the incandescent light bulb was never invented, but something far more efficient took its place centuries ago. Or a reality where free energy was abundant before the Industrial Revolution. We're diving into a parallel timeline to uncover 10 groundbreaking inventions erased from history, and how their survival would have completely reshaped our present. Prepare to question everything you thought you knew about progress. The Antikythera mechanism. In 1901, sponge divers off the coast of Greece pulled a corroded lump of bronze from a shipwreck. At first, it looked like nothing, just debris. But inside was a machine. A machine so intricate, so mathematically precise that even 2,000 years later, we still struggle to understand it. A computer. Not digital, but mechanical. A device capable of predicting eclipses, planetary movements, and ancient celestial events with a complexity that shouldn't have existed until the 1800s. And yet, it was built around 100 BC, a machine 1,000 years too early. Imagine what would have happened if this invention had spread, if ancient engineers had built upon it, if the design had survived, instead of sinking into the sea. Maybe the Renaissance would have come centuries earlier. Maybe astronomy, navigation, even industry would have accelerated beyond anything we recognize, but instead, the ancient world lost it, forgot it, buried it under sand and war and time. Humanity rarely advances in a straight line. Sometimes, the future arrives early, and no one notices. The 1890s electric revolution today. Electric cars feel like a modern breakthrough. Clean, efficient, innovative. But the strange truth is, we almost lived in an electric world from the very beginning. In the late 1800s, electric cars were everywhere. Quiet carriages gliding through cities, charged in public stations, driven by women, doctors, businessmen, long before gasoline took over. And for a moment, electricity was winning. It was cleaner, simpler, more practical. But then, convenience and power won. Gasoline engines were louder, dirtier, but cheaper. They travelled farther. They made millionaires. They aligned with the interests of oil barons and industrial tycoons. So the electric dream dimmed. Imagine if it hadn't. Imagine cities without smog. A 20th century without oil wars. A climate that never reached crisis. A transportation world shaped by silence instead of combustion. But history shifted, not because the technology failed, but because we preferred the option that made the world noisier. The 1904 pandemic's filter mask. In 1904, a forgotten doctor named Wu Lien-te designed something simple, a mask. A multi-layered fiber mask capable of filtering deadly airborne particles. He used it to stop a plague outbreak in Manchuria. And it worked. It saved thousands. But the world dismissed him, mocked him, ignored him. When the Spanish flu hit 14 years later, the design existed, but countries never adopted it, never mass-produced it, never believed in it until millions died. Imagine if this forgotten invention had become standard. Imagine if every hospital, every city, every home had adopted the mask decades earlier. History would look different. Pandemics might have been contained. Generations saved from grief they could not escape. Sometimes an invention is lost, not because it's too advanced, but because no one takes it seriously until it's too late. Nikola Tesla's wireless power tower. Tesla didn't just dream of electricity, he dreamed of free electricity, power untethered from wires, sent through the air like radio waves. In 1901, he built Wardenclyffe Tower, a massive structure designed to transmit energy across continents. He wasn't trying to sell electricity, he wanted to give it away. And that was the problem. Investors withdrew the moment they realized the power couldn't be controlled, metered, monetized. So the tower died. His research was lost. The dream evaporated. Imagine a world where energy flows like Wi-Fi, where devices charge through the air, where no village, no family, no child lives in darkness. But history rarely rewards those who invent for humanity. More than profit. The 1816 Stirling engine. In a quiet village in Scotland, a reverend named Robert Stirling created a heat engine unlike anything else. One that could run on almost any source of warmth, one safer than steam engines, quieter, cleaner. But it arrived too early. Steam machines dominated the world, and industry had no reason to change, and so the Stirling engine faded into obscurity, only to be rediscovered today in spacecraft and submarines. We could have had silent, efficient engines in the 1800s, we just weren't listening. Humanity doesn't always adopt the best idea. Sometimes it adopts the loudest one. The 1920s hemp plastic formula. Before petroleum plastics took over the world, a group of scientists, including Henry Ford, experimented with hemp-based polymers, lightweight, biodegradable, stronger than steel, and grown from a renewable plant. But within years, hemp was banned, illegal, erased from agriculture under political and economic pressure. Plastic, meanwhile, exploded, and centuries of pollution followed. Imagine oceans without islands of garbage, cities without landfills, a world where the material we used simply returned to the earth. We had the solution. We abandoned it. The thorium LFTR reactor. In the 1960s, scientists discovered a different kind of nuclear power. Safer, cleaner, unable to melt down, and producing waste that decayed in decades. Not millennia, a thorium reactor. But the US chose uranium instead, not because it was safer, but because it produced materials useful for nuclear weapons. Thorium reactors were shelved, forgotten, left to gather dust. Imagine a world where nuclear accidents never happened, where energy was abundant and safe, where geopolitical tensions over uranium and plutonium never escalated. We were close, closer than anyone realizes. And then, we walked away. The GM Firebird Second, autonomous concept. Autonomous cars feel like a futuristic miracle. But in the 1950s, GM engineers created a prototype that could follow electromagnetic tracks embedded in roads, a self-driving network decades ahead of its time. But it required infrastructure, vision, coordination. And the world wasn't ready for that kind of cooperation, so the idea died. Imagine a 20th century without traffic deaths, without congestion, without human error. But humanity rarely invests in systems that benefit everyone equally. We choose convenience over coordination, one city at a time, one company at a time, never together. The Baghdad Battery. In 1936, archaeologists uncovered clay pots in Iraq. Inside, copper cylinders and iron rods. When assembled and filled with acidic liquid, they produce electricity, a simple battery, 2,000 years before the modern world rediscovered it. No one knows what they were used for. Electroplating, spiritual rituals, or something we can't even imagine. What's unsettling is not the invention itself. But the idea that humans understood electricity, even briefly, long before we think they did, knowledge isn't always linear. Sometimes civilizations remember things, then forget them, then rediscover them centuries later as if it were brand new. History is not a ladder, it's a spiral. Royal Rife's frequency device. In the 1930s, Royal Rife created a device that he claimed could target diseases using specific